I'm Penny S.Tee, and I'm the host of Peace with Penny. It was the summer of 2014, and our trip to Israel was for our son's bar mitzvah present. My husband had gone back to the hotel, and my son, friends, and I had just stopped in a pharmacy.
Run to the bomb shelter, sweetie. Please hurry. I didn't hear the sirens at first, but the Israelis did. They're used to hearing these things. We ran to the back of the storeroom. It was a 12-foot by 24-foot windowless bomb shelter. My heart's pounding. Boom! Boom! I hear it and feel the percussion of the exploding bombs. I'm trying not to get sick. I look at my 13-year-old son and I think I'll never forgive myself if something happens to him.
It's an excerpt from a speech I gave to the Orange County Jewish Bar Association. It was the first, but not the last time we had to run to a bomb shelter. Our adventure and my transformation is also the subject of my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. The impact of the war made me want to work on peace of all types, and especially between Israelis and Palestinians. I know that the parents on both sides want their children to play safely in their backyards. The greatest disservice the media has done is to convince the world that there never will be peace in the Middle East. Yet there are pockets of peace even today during war. At Peace with Penny, we have a packed library of interviews of peace organizations whose members are often both Israeli and Palestinian who work together on peace, some for decades. The ways of working on peace are varied and include science, medicine, interfaith, transportation, sports, art, music, environmental conservation, and many more. Is it harder during war? Of course, and many of these peace organizations believe working together now is even more important than ever. With the Israel-Hamas war heading toward persisting a year with no end in sight, and the hostages who should have been brought home by now to be with their families, at Peace with Penny, we wanted to bring you good news. I'm excited to kick off our newest interview on today's show, interviewing Zafra Lerman, founder and president of the Malta Conferences Foundation. We first spoke to Zafra a year and a half ago, and I wanted to catch up with her because her memoir just has been published, Human Rights and Peace, A Personal Odyssey. It's a real page-turner. Zafra Lerman is a scientist, educator, and humanitarian. Her love of science and peace knows no boundaries. She's proven science diplomacy as a bridge to peace works. Packed into her 5'3" frame, I would describe this powerhouse as a female Einstein, a true Renaissance woman. Using her creative teaching methods through art, music, or dance, she has taught over 16,000 Chicago public school students and trained over 1,000 teachers. She has over 40 distinguished international awards, and she has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 6 times.
Therefore, scientists are in a very special position compared to any other profession. They have the responsibility to use their science for the betterment of humankind.
Zafra is Israeli. She grew up living in the developing young nation called Israel. She holds a PhD in chemistry from the Weizmann Institute of Science and conducted research on isotope effects at Cornell and Northwestern universities in the U.S., and the ETH, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. She also taught underprivileged and homeless students throughout the world and even prisoners who went on to receive undergraduate and master's degrees. Zafra chaired the American Chemical Society's Subcommittee on Science, Freedom, and Human Rights. She worked on human rights cases in the former Soviet Union, Russia, China, Guatemala, Cuba, Peru, South Africa, Iran, and many more. The Malta Conferences Foundation completed their 10th Symposium of Scientists and Nobel Laureates in 2022. And theoretically, there should be another conference toward the end of this year, but given the Israeli-Hamas war, we'll speak with Zafra and hear if that is going to be a viable option. The Malta Conferences Foundation is the only platform in the world which brings together scientists from 15 Middle East countries: Bahrain, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. with Nobel laureates to work for 5 days on solving regional problems, establishing cross-border collaborations, and forging relationships that bridge chasms of distrust and intolerance. Needless to say, Ms. Lerman is a very accomplished and interesting person. Welcome, Zafra.
Thank you. Thank you for this introduction.
It's really long, but you just have so many accomplishments. Zafra, how would you describe the Malta Conferences Foundation?
The Malta Conferences Foundation is bringing together under the same roof for 5 days scientists from all over the Middle East. It's the only platform in the world that brings under the same roof scientists from all these countries together for 5 days with several Nobel laureates. And the purpose is to find what unites them, not what separates them, to see the demonizing of the unknown other, and develop collaboration and on issues that no one country can solve alone. Water, air pollution, the aqueducts for water don't know the lines on the map. So they cross a lot of these countries. Therefore, these countries must work together. Our purpose is to use science diplomacy as a bridge to peace in the Middle East. We feel that science diplomacy can succeed where every other diplomacy cannot, because science diplomacy can overcome barriers of language, of culture, of religion, because science is international, one language. As I always like to say, a chemist in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and a chemist in Bethlehem on the West Bank can communicate to each other without knowing each other's language. This is what science is, science diplomacy is.
Awesome. Before we go much further, I wanted to show an overview of the Malta Conferences Foundation.
Malta Conferences, brainchild of noted chemist Dr. Zafra Lerman, gathers scientists, entrepreneurs, postdocs, and students from 15 Middle East countries, plus Morocco and Pakistan. The participants engage in talks and workshops with the Nobel laureates and network with other distinguished scientists to identify unique opportunities for collaboration to meet the scientific and technological challenges of the region.
Dr. Zafra Lerman is doing a lot of effort. She's really a pioneer in this area. She's getting all this together. She's been working hard in order to keep it going. The goal is actually to have science as a means for diplomacy. You know, there are many conflicts in our area, and getting scientists together without any borders, without any diplomatic barriers, they get to know each other more. And maybe, hopefully, peace can be through such conferences.
So why did you found the Malta Conferences Foundation?
I got the idea after September 11 that we must do something with scientists from the Middle East. Scientists have a special status in most countries in the world. In the US, not so much, but everywhere in the world, scientists are held in a very high status, and they have influence on their government. No government can build weapon of mass destruction without scientists. So it was important to me to bring the scientists together towards peace and not toward war. And because I chair the subcommittee on scientific freedom and human rights for the ACS, I brought the idea in front of the board of the ACS, and this was approved in 2003 at the heights of the Intifada, which is the uprising. We had Malta One. A lot of people were scared in this situation to have it, but I thought that an island will be safer than a mainland, and therefore Malta was picked up as the site for the first conference. In addition, there were not very many flights to Malta, so almost everybody had to change plans in Europe, and it took a long time for everybody to get to Malta. So I calculated that if it's so complicated to get to Malta, it will not be worthwhile for any terrorist to spend so much time to kill a lot of Muslims and few Jews. And therefore, Malta was selected as the first site in 2003. The name Malta Conference comes because the first conference was in Malta. The second conference was in Malta too. Then the third we had in Istanbul. The fourth in Amman, Jordan. The fifth we were invited by UNESCO to have the conference in their own headquarters. The sixth went back to Malta, but the seven was in Morocco. 8, 9, and 10 went back to Malta from where everything started.
Fabulous. Now, do the 15 Middle East countries generally, do all of them show up?
Yes.
Morocco, they added on as well, correct?
Morocco and Pakistan are Muslim countries, but not in the Middle East. They requested to participate. Morocco requested, after we had the conference in Morocco, we allowed few of the scientists to participate. They wanted to participate on a regular basis, and therefore Morocco was added. Pakistan requested to participate because they felt that this might be a form that they can imitate between Pakistan and India.
Oh, wow.
So this is why they requested to participate.
How do you decide who can participate for the younger scientists?
Everything is by invitation only. This is the first rule in the Malta Conference. Second rule, no accompanying members, because chemists know that if they dilute a solution, the interaction is much slower. So in order not to dilute the interaction, there are no accompanying members, and most of the people I recommended by people that I met in other conferences or people that participated in Malta, and they recommend the younger people, but everybody comes with a recommendation. It's not just that somebody can apply.
What are the key factors to bring together all these individuals from these different cultures? When they first get there, do you have something that would get them to be more comfortable interacting?
The first Malta conference, the first day, everybody sat with their own country.
Right.
I had to move around and mix them. But because every conference has a nucleus of people that participated already, it's much easier for the newcomer to join in because they see the senior scientists from their countries interacting with each other. So it's really now there is no problem because there is always a nucleus of people that participated, and then there is a nucleus of new people. So we don't have to spend time to wait till people will be ready to interact with each other.
What are your ultimate goals for the Malta Conferences Foundation?
The ultimate goal, if we could achieve it, is have enough money to form a critical mass of scientists that can start a chain reaction for peace. Because we have science ministers with us, we have president of university, we have president of their own scientific communities, and these people are influential. And if we can enlarge it or have more Malta conferences, our feeling is that we will be on the road to peace more than wars and long years of negotiation.
And when you say peace, peace where?
In the Middle East.
Are you specifically, for instance, ending the Israel-Hamas war or peaceful relations amongst Arab countries, or?
We would like to see all the countries that participate to have peaceful relations because they all want to collaborate with each other, learn from each other, do joint research, have publication together. But there are barriers to get together after the Malta Conference. So sometimes we have mini Malta conferences so people can get together and discuss their collaboration. But for sure, if the participants could get together, a lot of problems of the region could be solved because they can be solved only by scientists. So like our workshop on water, energy, food security nexus is a workshop on solving a lot of the problem, but there needs to be a collaboration between all the countries, between the Malta conferences. And usually the countries that can collaborate, it's Israel, it's the West Bank, Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, now United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Morocco. But we still have a lot of countries that are left out, like Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and many more that we would like to have them being able to collaborate because they have the same problems, and it's very important for people. This is how science works. It's always collaboration that advances science.
What was great about the book, not only did we learn about the conferences, but we learned more about you. To continue on speaking about you, please tell the story of when you were 7 years old in third grade and your teacher was absent, so your class was sent to eighth grade class.
Okay, when I was 7 years old, I was in third grade, and our teacher did not come. So the principal took all of us to eighth grades, told us to sit on the floor around the wall and be quiet. And he taught algebra. He was the principal of the school too, and he put a question in algebra on the blackboard, and he asked who can solve it, and nobody got up, and he kept on asking and kept on asking. After a while, I raised my hand and I said, I can solve it. And he said, you can solve it? Do you know algebra? I said, I don't think I know algebra. I don't know what it is, but I know for sure to solve this problem. So I got up and he gave me the chalk and I solved it on the blackboard. And he was so impressed that he started telling me in every language how excellent it is. And then he sent a letter to my parents telling them that I am like a tree planted on the water and that I will achieve a lot in science and math because he was so impressed with it.
He's right about that, that's for sure. So that opened up the door for you to go to new school. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I went to a school that was called the Reali School in Haifa. It was considered the best private school, and most of the schools in Israel were not private. So this school was specially oriented to science and math, and I moved to this school after this incident. And then when we came to high school in Israel, at least in my time, we practically had majors already in high school. Even today, they have to choose what they are interested in. So we had a class that was literature, another class was economic, and there was a class for science and math. So I went to this class, but you needed tests to pass. to enter this class, and I was the only girl that was accepted, so I had to go through high school only with boys in my class, and my best girlfriends were always boys because I did not have girls around, and it was a very, very interesting experience to be the only girl in a class. And when I tried to give a teacher a hard time and the teacher told me to leave the class, all the boys started screaming, "You're throwing out all the girls in the class, all the girls in the class, you know." So it was a very interesting experience to be the only girl in high school in the class.
Your family really was like the backbone of building Israel into a nation. Can you please talk a bit about your family history and how that intertwined between your grandparents and your parents and your young life?
My father came in 1920 because he believed very strongly that the Jews must have a homeland. There were all the pogroms in Europe, people were killed right and left, and he believed that the only solution is have a Jewish state. And he, by the age of 17, left his family and went to what was then called Palestine Mandate, the British Mandate, and it took him 2 years with different vessels to get there. He left home when he was 17. He arrived when he was 19. And he was involved with other people like him, pioneers, in building the roads and drying the swamps and being involved with the underground and Haganah, and then working with Ben Gurion and Golda Meir to build the Jewish states. My mother came much younger because her parents and her oldest brother were killed by the Bolsheviks. And so they were 8 orphans left, 7 girls and 1 boy. She was the youngest among the girls. She always used to tell me the feeling of being in an orphanage, begging for bread. Therefore, she couldn't stand to see food thrown away. And she came and was involved in building the country. And then when she was 17, she met my father, and about all this romance that was very interesting. It's described in the book. So if anybody's interested, they can read it in the book. She got married much before her older sisters. That was a problem, and I described how it was solved. And then my brother was born when my father was 6 years older than my mother. She was very young, 18, when he was born. So his generation, by the age of 12 and 13, was already involved in the underground. Then when he turned 18, he read that the Jewish brigade in the British Army fighting the Nazis is being filled with non-Jews. So he decided to get up 5 o'clock in the morning and rushed to join the Jewish brigade. When my parents woke up and saw his letter that he went to join the British Army, he was transferred to Europe, and then he was involved with the Independence War, where he was wounded twice in his lung. Second time, 0.5 millimeter from the heart. He gave him a chance to survive.
You've been an activist for so many years and believe in protests, but what you see on campuses today, do you agree with that? How would you describe what's going on?
Let me tell you, the most painful thing is how the students don't understand what they say and what they demonstrate for. It's very sad that in Ivy League schools, when a lot of the students were interviewed, and they screamed from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, when they ask what sea,
Mhm.
There are different answers, like the Black Sea, that, and when they are asked what river, they say the Gaza River. It's very sad that they don't know about the Mediterranean and Jordan. And I asked one of these demonstrators, I said, you just demonstrated screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Will you attend a demonstration for the destruction of Israel? And she said, for sure not. So I said, what do you mean? From the river, what does it mean for the river of the sea? It just means that. I like the fact that they feel for the Palestinian and want to demonstrate for them. I work with my participants in Gaza. I can say that they are now in Egypt with the help of my participants in Egypt. And with all the demonstration, I cannot get a visa for young Gazan families. That he's an excellent engineer and he's from the Malta Conference. In all these countries that you see all the demonstration, nobody wants to let one Gazan family in. And Egypt doesn't really want them to stay there. They want them to go. So it's very sad to see how easy it is to scream to support the Palestinian and even members of Congress. And I contacted these members and I said, okay, take action. Get these family visas to come to US. Oh, this is another story. So I believe in demonstration, but I believe from a knowledgeable, intelligent point of view. I always told my students, I don't care what side of the demonstration you take. All the time, it's from a knowledgeable, intelligent point of view. And sadly, it's not happening with a college student now.
Right.
This is very painful to see.
Can you talk about your work in human rights? You really had some incredible stories, meeting various ones in the middle of the night and so on.
This is I'm looking at that today and I said, oh my God, I be brave today to do it.
Yeah, I was raised on too much chicken soup for this one.
So during the 80s, there were a lot of scientist dissidents. They were fired from their jobs. They were not allowed to do anything. They were isolated, so there was no way for them to know what their field is doing. Many were arrested, sent to labor camps in Siberia, and I chaired the subcommittee on scientific freedom and human rights. So I felt it's my obligation to go to the Soviet Union to help them. But the only way I could do it is by finding a group of scientists that goes and go with this umbrella, where during the day we were guests of different universities, we gave lectures, and then I arranged in advance with the contacts we had to meet the refuseniks after midnight. So after midnight, I would leave the hotel, and during dinner, I look at who from the group will be brave enough not to be scared that I will cause all of them trouble. And usually it was a woman that I just said, don't ask me question, but if I'm not here for breakfast,
Oy,
just call the American embassy.
oy, oy.
And I would go in these dark alleys and we would collect the dissidents one after the other. And by 2 a.m., we would arrive to a dark attic where there would be already 50 of them. I brought scientific material, which was illegal during that time. I gave them a scientific seminar, what was illegal, and then I collected all the CVs in order to help them to get out of their situation, and I did it every night.
Wow.
How many I managed to come to freedom, and all these stories are in the book. But for sure, it was taking a lot of risks
Yes.
to get that. And I am at awe when I think about all that.
Yeah,
And
I
being
was,
alone
yes,
in dark alleys of
I was,
Moscow, and
yeah,
at that stage it was Leningrad, St. Petersburg, all alone, going to do all that.
yeah,
It looks to me very frightening today. And
absolutely.
chapter is very interesting because it describes my human rights work in China too after Tiananmen Square. So it's, I don't know
Really
how it.
something, really something. I know when I became a mother, I was really excited to teach my son all different things. But what I was surprised to learn is how much he taught me. And I'm wondering, what did your students teach you?
My students taught me, first, my son taught me a lot about music because he was very musical.
Yes.
But my students taught me how to teach science using art, music, dance, drama, rap, poetry, animation, anything you can think about, because most of these students that were non-science major, and especially majoring in the arts, never take a chemistry class.
Right.
And I developed a method that integrated the arts and the music and the dance into the science. And this became very, very successful, and with a lot of underprivileged students. And I was invited all over the world to run workshops so it could be adapted all over. And students that would never ever touch science became very interested in that. And they took not only one class, but took a lot of classes. And few got so interested that they went after that to graduate schools in science.
I know when I was in corporate America in the 80s and the 90s, and you mentioned how you in school you were the only girl, and how it changed along the way to there's quite a significant number of women scientists that are at the Malta conferences. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Oh, yes, because in Malta one, we had only 4 women, and in several countries in the Middle East, a woman is not allowed to travel alone. She has to be accompanied by a father, by a husband, by a brother, but she cannot travel alone. But we have the rule of no accompanying member. So the first few Malta conferences were tough to attract, especially young women scientists from a lot of these countries. But with Malta, it became extremely famous and well known, and especially a lot of the students, where else would they be able, not just the students, but young scientists, even senior scientists, where else in the world would they be able to spend 5 solid days with several Nobel laureates, eating with them, staying in the same hotel, interacting all the time. So in Malta 10, we had close to 40 women. From 4, it went to 40. And sure, all of them present research. We have a guided poster session that everybody talks about the research, and people give advice to each other and develop collaboration, and it's very beneficial to them. And as one Iraqi told me when they came the first time, he was probably 50 years old, and he came with me with tears in his eyes. And he said, all my life I learned that Israelis are monsters and that they don't even look like human beings. And here I find the most wonderful people, great scientists that want to help and collaborate And he said, I was lied to all my life. And this is the purpose of the Malta Conference. So people will see that they are not enemies. And when the Malta Conference ends, it looks more like a reunion of a family that came to an end. People hug each other. People have tears in their eyes to say goodbye. So you can see that the people would love to live in peace and see each other, but we have governments that are in the middle.
Right. Well, I know that one of your projects was getting clean water for Gaza. And with what's going on, are they able to continue that project?
No. No, who knows what is going there? I don't think the labs are functioning, and it's not a situation.
Right.
Collaboration now between Israel and Gaza. It's a tough situation all over. By now all the Middle East is involved: Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, West Bank, Gaza. Everybody is involved. So it's a very tough situation, and we are considering to postpone the Malta 11 from December 2024, postpone it to 2025, but on the request of people, we might have a Zoom Malta that will have breakup rooms so the people can still talk according to their subject or the workshops that we would have, like science education. We have a workshop and a project which is extremely important subject both in the world but especially in the Middle East. So we are discussing this possibility now.
That'd be fantastic. Just maybe like a precursor. They'll already meet each other, the ones who didn't know each other, and be able to come next year.
Or if we have a Zoom, it probably will be all people that participated, because to have new people on a Zoom is very hard. But in Malta 11, we will have again new people and young scientists that will join. But a Zoom will be people that attended already different Malta conferences.
How wonderful. That just might open up new opportunities when you do things happen that you don't expect sometimes, which are great. Okay, so I wanted to go through some of the details of your conference, and
it's a group photo of Malta 10.
Right. In the plenary lecture, what kinds of things do you discuss with everyone?
The plenary lectures are given always by Nobel laureates, and it depends on the field of the Nobel laureates what is the plenary lecture.
The women's workshop. So you actually have a separate women's workshop. Why?
This was by request of the women in Malta 8 to have a forum for women so they can discuss the obstacles that different women experience in different countries and see how to solve it by other participants that already went through that, and to get support and mentoring of each other. So it was by request of the women in Malta 8, so we ran this forum in Malta 9 and Malta 10.
Here, the young scientists, what different science backgrounds are they coming from?
They come from all the different science backgrounds. Any science backgrounds can come to Malta. They are chemists, they are physicists, they are biologists, they are geologists, they are hydrologists, they are engineers, any field of science.
So this is your opening ceremony, and you had all kinds of dignitaries.
It's the head table.
I have pulled out 4 of them. This first one, Her Excellency Agnes von der Mue.
She's the French ambassador to Malta, and she participated in the opening ceremony, and she sponsored an evening with a reception and food for all the participants.
And His Excellency George Vela.
Dr. George Vela, he's a medical doctor that is very interested in environmental science, and he's the president of the Republic of Malta. And we have always, when we are in Malta, the president of the Republic opens the conference. So he was opening the conference.
And then Omar Rifai of Jordan.
Omar Rifai is a scientist that was a foreign minister in Jordan, and now he is an advisor to Prince Hassan bin Talal, who is King Hussein's brother, and he is very involved in trying to achieve peace. And he attended several Malta conferences, but he could not come this time, so he sent Omar Rifai instead to participate.
And Angela K. Wilson.
Angela K. Wilson, it all was in 2022. People have different position, but in 2022, Angela was president of the American Chemical Society, the largest, most influential scientific society in the world, more than 150,000 members, and she was the president. So she was greeting. We had the president on the head table. We had the president of IUPAC, International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, and he greeted the citizen. We had Frédérique Dumas, that was a member of the French Parliament. She was at the table greeting the participants. We usually have a lot of dignitaries participating.
Terrific. And the Nobel laureates.
These are the 17 Nobel laureates that participated in different Malta conferences. Many of them participated 5, 6 Malta conferences because they are so devoted to the cause. And they are a very important part of the Malta conferences.
And of course, we spoke about you had
Right.
so many different countries participate. Incredible. And
Says the Malta conferences, the places they were held.
I love this picture because it's just human, you know. He's enjoying himself, you could tell, smiling, and as they're speaking together.
This is Nobel laureate Roald Hoffman, that is, by the way, a Holocaust survivor, and he attended almost all the Malta conferences.
Awesome. I remember it was a new experience and you didn't know how it was going to work, but it sounds like it worked out terrific. Can you talk a little
It was a terrific idea by the organizer of the conference, because we always have half a day that is for tours. So everybody knows that there will be a tour because we don't want them to leave while there are sessions. And he decided to add something very interesting, and this was learning how to cook Maltese dishes. And the group was divided to group of 10. So we had 10 groups of 10. And in every group of 10, we made an effort not to have 2 people from the same country. So they will be from different countries. And we gave everybody aprons that had the logo of the Malta conferences. And it was a terrific experience. Every group moved from one table to the other to cook a dish. If this group did the appetizer, they moved after that to do a main dish. Another one came, so it was, and then we all ate what was cooked there. So it was a terrific experience that people were in high spirits and enjoying every minute of that.
Sounds terrific. Then to say goodbye, you already said it's really like saying goodbye.
Stop to say goodbye.
What's been your most satisfying accomplishment?
This is hard to say because I have 3 fields that I feel satisfied with my accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is education, that they developed a way that science can be taught to everybody and not just to selected one. Then it became accessible all over the world. And as I said, especially with underprivileged students, I have a lot of satisfaction to know how many people are free today and working and happy as a result of my efforts on human rights. So this gives me a lot of satisfaction, and it gives me satisfaction to see the relationship that were formed between scientists from countries that are hostile to each other, but it makes me very unhappy to see what's going on now in the Middle East. And as the participants tell me that we have now to quadruple our effort because they think that this is the model to go towards peace. So I feel that I have accomplishment in 3 different very important fields. And for sure, there are people that are out of prison, out of the Soviet Union, Russia, out of Iran, because of my efforts. So this gives me a lot of satisfaction.
So, Zafra, I believe you are using your book as a fundraiser for the next Malta conference. You want to show us the cover?
And fundraising now for anything in the Middle East is very hard. Therefore, all the proceeds from the book will go towards bringing the Middle East participants because we pay for all of them. So it's all goes towards peace in the Middle East. I will not take any penny from the proceedings.
Mazel tov. Well, that's a great way to end our interview today. Thanks so much, Zafra, for your time and what you've done to make the world a better place, more peace-filled place. Next time we're together, we'll be speaking with Natalie Sapinski from Rescuers Without Borders. In short, they save lives in both Israel and around the world. They're often first on the scene of all types of medical emergencies, including on October 7th. They help whenever there are the unfortunate terrorist attacks that occur consistently throughout Israel, as well as worldwide emergencies such as the earthquake in Turkey in February 2023. We'll hear about how busy they were October 7th and since. They're also a peace organization, yet they often must keep their efforts quiet from the communities they both help and train. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict gets complicated even when trying to save lives. Right. They serve and train both Israeli and Palestinian volunteers to provide the life-saving techniques, arriving first on the scene, awaiting transportation to hospitals that can be more than half an hour away. Rescuers Without Borders also helps countries throughout the world wherever there is an emergency due to their experience under these circumstances. They've helped at disasters in Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, Philippines, Thailand, Jordan, Guam, Guadeloupe, Miami, Burma, and most recently, the Ukraine. We hope you will enjoy listening. In Israel, saving lives not only challenges the responders to help the victims, but sometimes risks the lives of those trying to save lives. You can always see the recordings on our Peace with Penny YouTube channel. Thank you, and may you live in peace, shalom, and salam.